When our mind moves, especially when you are in like a lucid dream state, it's very interesting. Lots of ideas are floating around, and as if there's some drive to go somewhere to clarify the message. And it may work well, but depending upon the situation, it may be very foggy, so it takes time and energy to clarify the meaning. It's a long sentence to say this much, but I want to share an idea that I think would be very, very, very important for the future of human society and each individual within. So let me start with the idea that I have written in my books, that often the organization depends on how the top management make a decision and call it top down, enforce the idea to get people involved and achieve. But I think bottom up is very important so that the people at the top can accommodate the opinions of the people from the ground floor or shop floor, I call it. So to process that such that the organization can make the most of it, I wrote the book called The New Shop Floor Management. Shop floor has importance, and if we can light up the corners of the world, it would help also to contribute to the whole world to get better, not just depending upon the top-down, top management and leadership, but growing on the people inside is very important. So let me explain one of the important concepts that I learned and practiced it, which is to look at the situation of what's going on from the shop floor point of view. Let me explain in two ways. This can be done in the organization. Like when I was visiting the organization, I talk with the top and middle and shop floor and be able to synthesize, because I'm outsider, to help the organization to transform. It's like a kid's asking, why do you do this? And please explain. And from that process, there's a bottleneck found for me to recommend for the organization to put some effort to address that. Usually that happens when I finish visiting the company. It could be a day or 2 or 3 days. Kind of summarize the impression and point the future direction of the company. And I may visit the company 1 month later, 3 months later, 1 year later. Depends on the situation. And this process, I believe, applies to not just in the organization or the company, but within myself or within each individual. So in the case of the company, I was processing with the idea of the mini company and glass wall management. So the people within the company have empowerment to express what they can, with the idea that they are also running a mini company. So they have the ownership, self-management process going on, dealing with the customers, suppliers, and even to share the annual report or quarterly report, which can be shared within the organization with the idea of the glass wall management, not the brick wall and the siloed, compartmentalized, and they may not share what they do. And that helps the organization to be, if I may call it, enlightened, to know how the power of the people can be synthesized, bring out the best, especially to address the bottleneck of the organization. Like I said, that happens within myself, within each person. So it's the mini me instead of mini company, but the concept is the same. There's a hierarchy of the executive function at the top, and down below are all the ideas floating around. So as I mentioned that this morning, I was kind of checking myself how things are and how ideas can be synthesized to bring out the clarity. But like I said, it could be like in the fog that you cannot see well, but if you maintain that state of being, which is not just grabbing the idea but making sense of all the elements which may be stored somewhere in your mind. So it's empowerment and the bottom up, but also connecting to the executive function of who I am, as much as who the company is and what to do. If you do this well, it's like a tree growing individually, but as a forest can move in a direction that could synthesize the idea of those trees and maybe other element within the forest. So it's an ecosystem. Everything is connected and influenced with each other. So in such an environment, each to optimize their own without thinking of others make not much sense, because it's an ecosystem we all depend on with each other. So it's the idea of local optimization without the considering of the impact of the others may not make the situation well for each individual, but as a whole. If the company is a nation and the human species, this process may not be so easy to digest. These days, with lots of information passing around, what is the essence of it? How do we see clearly what's happening? And that's the subject I guess I have been thinking, but never tried to put the whole package together until now. So without spending too much in this video, because it kind of requires a sense of clarity, not just in the local, but as a whole, but as well as the local within, because of the hierarchical nature of, let's say, mini-me or mini-mini-me to me, to the forest, for the whole nation and the world. So why bother to look at it? But as much as each individual want to do within, relating to the customers and suppliers, if individuals got the view and the process developed, which I believe is very feasible if each of us, or each of mini-me, or each of the body cells even, to be empowered and become lively, so that they have this situation of synthesizing as we keep living. That's the case of the example of the tree growth, analogy of the individual's growth from the root to the trunk to the branches and the leaves, and orchestrating how to synthesize, find the bottleneck, and for the tree to grow better in relation to other trees, but other trees with each other, and the whole forest and the whole human species, so to speak, as a big species of the trees or the forest, ecosystem of the whole, that's the nature of how things may be found to be integrated and relating to each other. Each, I said, use the brain, but listen to your heart. And that can be only accomplished if we get out of the mind and connecting to the heart, the root of our being, the root of the trees, where the energy is developed, sucked up, feel lively, and distribute in the direction where each tree can grow. And the same happens for the whole forest, if you can imagine, that each tree can relate to each other like a mini me to me, each tree to the forest. Is it far-fetched? But that's the interdependency, or the idea of the Kegon is called interpenetration. One cannot exist by themselves on their own, but relating to each other, influencing each other, positive or negative. I have a lot more I thought I can talk about, but let me just say one thing. What I said is kind of generic picture, but if I play ahead the scenario of what may happen in terms of the human relationship with each other and into the future, especially tied to digitization and AI being a major part of this whole change process because of the impact, potential benefit. But it can be abused, and we want to address it because the potential, if I may just draw a picture of the future of the AI technology and us all, is that whoever get the AI utilized, just like an extension of our brain, we have a great benefit associated with it to use the brain better, so to speak. But the brain by itself without the heart, I believe, is missing from my experience. To see the confinement in the mind and to go beyond that is to connect to the heart, in my terminology. And that is actually can be found only when the mind stops functioning, which is counterintuitive. But samadhi state is no mind, no self. And if I explain this lucid dream kind of a state of floating mind, but something is growing from within, and we all have that when you are sleeping or half sleep or meditating in the state of samadhi, of no mind and no self, that the mind is open and you can listen more from the body and heart. And that's the connection of the brain to the heart. Use the brain, but not to be used, but connected the root, the heart, the energy source that we all came from. Miracle of the universe. We are born. We are alive. It's not because of the brain, but the connecting to the root. But we don't realize if we are occupied in our mind, in the brain. So, what does that mean? There's a danger that the brain think if money is the power and the money can buy even AI, more resources for those who's got the money power, because they can change the objective function and the process of AI by saying that if you have put so much money, then you can get this much of the resources allocated to make the most for you. That's the brain saying. The brain is sub-optimizing, like an ego brain. And when it happens, then the ones who's got the money to put into AI to utilize the best of what they can sub-optimize, or just for their own sake. And because of the advancement of the AI and technology and all of the information processed can be very powerful, that would give those people with money power to excel in the direction of what they choose to. And there's a danger. Those who are left behind may not have resources or even possibly ability to use AI. And the AI's performance for that people may be limited. Just like the top-down is going on, the bottom-up is not getting the oxygen. And when it happens, the gap gets bigger and bigger, as we have seen the performance benefit financially is expanding, and the gap is growing between those who have and who do not have the monetary resources, not the connection to the heart, but the brain and use of the brain with AI can extend that gap to be bigger. So what do we do? I don't have a good answer. I have some answer, which is empowerment. But that's a big question, and that's part of the reason why I post these videos, to address the empowered people's idea to self-manage can influence the future of this human species as a big forest and all the ecosystem along with it. As in anything, it could be a battle from one to the other, depending upon what resource you have and how you are using. Hopefully, not just the brain, but the heart can contribute or be seen as one of the major factors to live a life. Just recognize we are alive not because of the brain, but the heart and lung and kidney and all the system, nerve system is functioning. But if you're occupied in the mind and the brain, that is like you don't feel the pain in the stomach because you are pushing yourself too much in the brain. Middle way, the balance, check and balance may be needed. And in my view, this samadhi state is the way to connect to the root for each of us, so that we can each make good judgment, wisdom and compassion to move forward, not depending upon AI and the leadership at the top. Not saying that they're wrong, but the gap being growing between have and have not may need some kind of a balance, as much as human species taking over all the other species to extension in some cases. And there's that concern. But structurally, that's the direction we are moving forward. That's how I feel. Unless we each may start to think of the way going forward with the ownership and even awakened state to the connect to our heart for all beings, living beings, be happy. So may all beings be happy, including body cells, and not having the AI to take over, but use AI as the extension of our brain. That's a major challenge, I see it, and I hope we can work toward the direction that fit all beings be happy. Please send me a comment. Maybe I can reflect with your comment back to this video, and maybe we can keep this dialogue going on as if it's the brain and heart dialogue we need to have. Thank you. Have a good day, and remember to have fun.